When you go silent, you don't give her peace. You hand her 1,000 little reasons to doubt herself. Silence isn't neutral. It's loud, messy, and it writes stories she never asked to read. Long, engaging hook. Listen, you might think quiet is a power move, that stepping back keeps you calm, makes you mysterious, or protects your pride. But for the woman on the other side, your quiet becomes a soundtrack of worries. It turns small fears into full-blown stories. In this video, we're peeling back what really happens in her mind when you stop talking. Not to shame you, but so you stop mistaking absence for strength. Stay with me, because this silence, it's doing more than you think. 1, silence isn't peace. It's a storm in her mind. When you go silent, you think you're creating peace. You think you're staying calm, controlling yourself, holding your emotions together. But to her, that silence is noise. It's chaos disguised as calm. You might be sitting there, scrolling your phone, telling yourself, I just need space. Meanwhile, she's replaying the last thing you said, wondering if she said something wrong. You see, women don't just hear silence, they feel it. And when that silence comes from someone she cares about, it's not just quiet anymore, it becomes a storm in her mind. She starts to fill that silence with questions. Did I say something wrong? Did I do something to push him away? Is he losing interest? And the dangerous part, she doesn't wait for answers. She creates them. Because when communication stops, imagination starts. And imagination, especially in love, is rarely kind. You think you're protecting your peace, but she thinks she's losing you. You're calm on your side, but her heart is racing on hers. Here's what most men don't get. Silence doesn't mean the same thing to women as it does to you. To you, it's a pause. To her, it's punishment. Because women read between lines, not just words. Every second you stay silent, she's decoding your absence. She's not crazy. She's not needy. She's connected. And connection without clarity becomes pain. The truth is, she would rather hear words that sting than silence that suffocates. So, when you choose silence thinking it'll protect your pride, remember, you're not building space, you're building distance. And once that distance becomes emotional, she stops hearing from you. She starts hearing about you in her thoughts, in her doubts, in her fears. And by the time you're ready to speak again, she's already spoken to herself 100 times about what went wrong. 2, she questions her worth. Instantly. You might not even notice it, but the moment you go quiet, her mind starts working against her, not slowly, instantly. A woman ties her worth to emotional connection. When that connection breaks, even for a few hours, she starts wondering what changed. You think she's overreacting. She thinks she failed. You're just taking time to think, but to her, that silence sounds like rejection. She replays the last conversation, trying to find where the energy shifted. Did she talk too much? Was she too open, too emotional? She starts editing herself in her head. Maybe next time I'll keep it shorter. Maybe I'll wait for him to text first. Maybe I'll act like I don't care. This is how women start shrinking in relationships, not because they want to, but because they feel like they're too much. And here's the part that hurts. She won't tell you any of this. She'll smile, act normal, pretend she's fine. But she's questioning everything you once made her believe. Every compliment, every "you mean a lot," every soft word. It all feels uncertain now. You might be quiet for peace. She's quiet because she doesn't feel safe to express anymore. The man she opened up to is now a wall she can't read. So she blames herself instead. Her questioning isn't weakness. It's emotional math. She's trying to make sense of the silence. You gave her no reason, so she gives herself one. Maybe I'm not enough. And once that seed is planted, every moment of quiet water it until doubt becomes her reality. 3, she starts filling the blanks. A woman's mind doesn't rest when you go quiet. It starts creating. She fills in the blanks you leave behind. She doesn't do it because she wants to assume the worst. She does it because uncertainty is unbearable. You go silent and her brain goes loud. Every pause becomes a possibility. Every delay feels like distance. She builds entire stories out of missing words. She remembers how you used to text faster, how your tone used to sound softer. She compares that version of you with the one she's seeing now. And without realizing it, she starts believing the story her fear writes. He's bored, he's changing, he's done. The irony, you might just be busy or tired. But silence doesn't sound like tiredness, it sounds like indifference. She starts scrolling your old texts. not for nostalgia, but for proof. Trying to remember if she missed a sign, something she said wrong. She checks your online status, reads your captions differently, even wonders who else you might be texting. It's not obsession, it's survival. Her heart is just trying to make sense of why the man who used to reach out first has suddenly disappeared into stillness. The female mind is wired for emotional safety. When that safety gets shaken, logic fades. She stops trusting what she sees and starts trusting what she feels. And silence always feels personal. You may not realize it, but every quiet moment you offer becomes another blank she's forced to fill, with worry, with overthinking, with pain, because silence demands explanation, and when you don't explain, she invents. 4. Her insecurity doesn't need proof. Here's the thing about insecurity. It doesn't wait for evidence. All it needs is silence. One unread message, one delayed reply, one moment where your warmth used to be. That's all it takes. She doesn't need to catch you lying. She doesn't need to see you as someone else. She just needs that hollow space where your attention used to live. And that emptiness, it echoes. She starts hearing voices that don't belong to you, old ones from her past, the ex who stopped trying, the father who didn't listen, the friend who faded away. Every wound that silence ever caused in her life starts bleeding again. You're not just quiet now, you're reminding her of every person who left without closure. That's why she reacts so deeply, because your silence isn't new. It's familiar pain wearing a new face. She starts doubting her worth, but not because she's weak, because she's sensitive to presence. When that presence disappears, she doesn't just lose comfort, she loses stability. You think she's dramatic, but she's just responding to what you didn't say. Silence makes her question things she never questioned before, her looks, her words, her value, and she'll never admit it, but she wonders, if I mattered, why does he act like I don't? Silence doesn't need to scream to hurt. It just needs to linger. 5. She goes quiet too, but not for the same reason. When she finally goes quiet, it's not revenge, it's self-protection. She's not playing your game. She's tired of playing alone. You think her silence means she's fine. But that quiet you hear, it's exhaustion. It's all the times she tried to talk and felt unheard. She's not done caring. She's done explaining. Her silence is different. It's heavy. It's not cold. It's controlled. She still feels everything. But now she hides it behind a calm face. She laughs with friends, scrolls through your name, maybe even types a message she never sends. She's learning to stop chasing closure from people who confuse distance with strength. Her silence isn't punishment, it's protection. It's her saying, I've tried, I've spoken, now I'll just stop. She's not being cold-hearted, she's finally choosing herself, because every time she tried to reach you with her voice, you replied with silence. Now she's matching your energy, but with purpose, and that's the silence you'll feel the most. Not the one she gives you in anger, but the one that comes after she stops waiting for you to notice she's hurting. 6. She starts to feel you letting go. You might think she doesn't know, but she does. She feels the drift before you say a word, the way your good mornings become shorter, the way your tone loses its warmth, the way conversations that once flowed now die after 2 texts. You don't have to say you're done. She feels it. She senses it in her body before her brain catches up. That's how connected women are. But here's the sad truth. Even as she feels you slipping, she keeps holding on, quietly, hoping maybe she's wrong. Maybe you'll come back around. Maybe it's just stress. She tries to justify it to herself, but deep down, she knows. The energy changed. The man she used to trust with her emotions now feels like a stranger who still has her heart. And when she starts to accept that, something inside her hardens. She doesn't cry in front of you. She doesn't beg. She just detaches, slowly, silently. She learns to survive your distance by creating her own, not to punish you, but to save herself, because she's learned that sometimes silence isn't love ending. It's love realizing it deserves to be heard. 7. When you go silent too long, she stops asking. Here's the part that breaks everything. When you go silent long enough, she stops asking. Not out of pride, out of pain. She stops waiting for your messages, stops replaying your voice, stops checking her phone, hoping it lights up with your name. That's when she finally lets go. Quietly, but completely. You think she's cold now? But no, she just reached the point where confusion hurts more than absence, where wondering became heavier than walking away. She doesn't need closure anymore. She's already given it to herself, because at some point she realizes that silence isn't power, it's avoidance. And that's not love, that's fear. So if you care, speak. Even a short message can save what silence destroys. Tell her you need time. Tell her what's wrong. Don't make her guess. Because a woman's heart doesn't need perfection. It needs presence. And when you go silent, remember this. You're not teaching her patience. You're teaching her how to live without you. Sometimes silence feels safer than honesty, but remember this, what you don't say still speaks, and often it screams louder than words ever could. When you go silent, you might think you're protecting yourself, but what you're really doing is leaving someone to fight a battle you created. She doesn't need you to be perfect. She just needs you to be present. So if you love her, speak. If you're hurting, say it, because silence doesn't protect peace. It poisons it slowly. And if she's already gone quiet too, understand, she didn't stop caring. She just got tired of asking for clarity in a language you refuse to speak. This isn't about blame, it's about awareness. The kind of awareness that builds emotional intelligence, the kind that saves love before it's too late. If this message spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, in relationships, silence isn't strength. It's just love slowly losing its voice. This is Brainify On, decoding human emotion, one truth at a time.